the morning my parents signed their house over to my sister. Nobody bothered to tell me. I found out by accident through a wedding photographer's invoice that landed in my inbox because I handle the family finances. That's what I do for a living: bookkeeping, balancing other people's chaos into something readable. For 5 years, I had quietly paid the mortgage on that house. Not because they asked, but because they were about to lose it, and I couldn't stand the idea of the home I grew up in disappearing. They transferred it away in a single afternoon. No call, no warning, no mention of me at all. 2 months later, they asked if they could move into my lake house. When I said no, my mother just smiled and walked away. The next morning, a police officer showed up at my door. My name is Tori Sinclair. I'm 34. I run a small bookkeeping business outside Dayton, Ohio. People think numbers are cold, but I've always believed they're the most honest thing in a room full of people lying to themselves. For years, I was the steady one in my family, the reliable one, the one who didn't complain, the one who always handled things. 5 years ago, my father called me late one night. They were behind on the mortgage. The bank was warning them. He didn't know what to do. I didn't hesitate. I told him I'd help, but I didn't do it blindly. Every year, I wrote up a simple promissory note stating clearly that the money I sent was a loan. Nothing complicated. Just paper, signatures, and dates. My parents signed them at the kitchen table without really reading. 5 years of payments. 5 signed acknowledgments. All carefully stored in a box in my office. I didn't think of them as leverage. I thought of them as memory. Then there was the lake house. 4 years ago, I bought it after landing a major contract. A small, quiet place by the water. Only my name on the deed. No shared ownership. No assumptions. But over time, my family started calling it ours. I let it go. It seemed harmless at the time. Until the wedding. My sister Megan got engaged to Brent, and suddenly everything revolved around her. Planning, deposits, decisions, and me, as always, being the one expected to quietly fund whatever was needed. Then, at the wedding, my father stood up to give a speech. He announced a gift to the newlyweds, the family house, signed over, free and clear. Everyone applauded. My mother looked at me like I should be proud, but I knew the truth. I had been paying that mortgage for 5 years, and they had just given it away. That night, I opened the box in my office. 5 promissory notes. 5 years of bank transfers. All neatly documented. Not anger at first. Just clarity. They hadn't forgotten the money. They had forgotten that I mattered in the story. A few days later, my mother called. She told me they were thinking of moving into my lake house instead. Like it was just another family asset. I told her I'd think about it. That's when everything started to shift. I stopped the mortgage payments, and shortly after, a police officer showed up at my door with a complaint. My parents were accusing me of financially taking advantage of them. That's when I understood the game. It wasn't about truth. It was about who told the story first. But I had something they didn't expect. Paperwork. At the lake house meeting that followed, my entire family showed up. My parents, my sister, her fiance, even a deputy brought in under the guise of a welfare check. My mother spoke first, painting me as cold, calculating, selfish. The steady one who didn't need anything and therefore owed everything. I didn't interrupt. I just opened my bag and I handed out folders, one by one. Deed, mortgage payments, signed promissory notes, bank records. At first, they laughed. Then they read. The laughter disappeared. The numbers didn't change, no matter how anyone felt. The deputy was the first to confirm it. This wasn't abuse. It was a civil debt, one that actually made me the creditor, not the accused. Silence spread through the yard for the first time. My mother didn't have control of the narrative. And then came the part I didn't expect. My father admitted it quietly later. He had known all along that I was carrying the burden. He just never stopped me. It was easier that way. That hurt more than anything. But it also made something clear. I wasn't dealing with confusion. I was dealing with convenience. In the end, I made a choice they didn't see coming. I didn't take the house from my sister. I didn't destroy them. I stopped funding the illusion. I forgave the debt I had been carrying for years on one condition. No more financial entanglement. No more silent expectations. And a real apology, spoken plainly, in front of everyone. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't cinematic, but it was real. My father apologized first. My mother followed, though it cost her more. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the steady one. I was just Torai. Months later, the company I built kept growing. The lake house stayed mine. The family house stayed with my sister, but now with truth attached to it. Whether they liked it or not. And I learned something I should have known much earlier. Being dependable doesn't mean being disposable. It just means people get used to you not saying no until you finally do.